A solubility curve is a graph, and this graph just shows your saturation, so where do you have a saturated solution, at a certain temperature. When you dissolve that solute into 100 grams of water. So looking at your solubility curve, they look fairly intimidating at the very beginning, but they're not actually all that bad. The reason why they look so intimidating is we have all these different lines on the graph, and it kind of looks like spaghetti. But that actually isn't the case, because we're only going to look at one line at a time. If the question says something about hydrochloric acid, we're only going to look at this line right here. Or if the question says something about potassium iodide, we're only going to look at this line right here. We're going to ignore everything else on the graph. When you're finding your solubility, what you're going to do is you're going to use your temperature at the bottom. And when you use that temperature at the bottom, you're just going to go up until you hit the line that it's asking for in the question. Whenever you write your unit for your solubility, you're going to have a certain number of grams of your solute, whatever the question is. So it'll ask about one of these that's on the graph. And that's dissolved into 100 grams of water. And that says that right here on the side of the graph. It's how many grams of solute are dissolved into 100 grams of water. So looking at some problems that you might see on these, I'm just going to use some little homework assignments. If we have a question that says something like, you have KNO3, which is potassium nitrate, at 70 degrees Celsius, we want to know what is the solubility there. So we're going to look at our solubility graph. And when we look at our solubility curve, KNO3 is right here. It's this line. When we look at KNO3, the question's asking about 70 degrees Celsius. So we're going to cruise up at 70 degrees Celsius until I hit that line, which is right there. So then to do my solubility, that's where I hit the line, so I have a saturated solution. I'm going to cruise over here. When I cruise over here, it's about, 134 or so. So we have 134 grams of KNO3 dissolved into 100 grams of water. So when it says find the solubility, that just means where do you have a saturated solution. My saturated solutions is at 134 grams in 100 grams of water. To do another one, this one says sodium chloride at 100 degrees Celsius. Sodium chloride is this line right here, 100 degrees. We're going to cruise up. So we're at that point. So it looks like we're at 40 grams. So in order to have a saturated solution, you would have 40 grams of NaCl dissolved into 100 grams of water. So the big thing to remember with your solubility curve so far is that if you are on the line, you have a saturated solution. If you're below the line that you're looking for, that means that you have an unsaturated solution. You can still add more to it to make it saturated. And then if you're above the line, that actually means that you have a super saturated solution once it cools back down. So just to look at some other questions that they might ask about these. Which of the above three substances is most soluble in water at 15 degrees Celsius? So if you have a question like that, it's wanting to know which one can accept the most solute with 100 grams of water. So at 15 degrees Celsius, you would cruise up, and we had KNO3, which is right here. Right here. We have NaCl, which is here, and we have NH4Cl, which is that line. So your most soluble, if we cruise over, is your NaCl, because that one is the highest of those 3 points. The most soluble would be the highest, the least soluble would be the lowest. So the most soluble compound on here is potassium iodide, the least soluble is the cerium 3 sulfate. If we look at another type of question that they might ask about, this one says at 90 degrees Celsius, you dissolve 10 grams of potassium chloride into 100 grams of water. Is this solution saturated or unsaturated? So KCl, here we'll use the bigger graph. KCl is this line right here. The question says that we are at 90 degrees Celsius And with us being at 90 degrees Celsius, we have 10 grams dissolved in. Our line's way up here and our amount's down here. We're below this line. So we're below that line, so that would make it unsaturated. Then they can also ask you a question, something like number 8 here. It says a mass of 80 grams of potassium nitrate is dissolved into 100 grams of water at 50 degrees Celsius. So KNO3 is this line right here. With KNO3, it says that we're at 50 degrees Celsius. We have 80 grams dissolved in. So we're right here. Then it says the solution is heated to 70 degrees Celsius. So we're going up to this point. How many more grams of potassium nitrate must be added to make the solution saturated? So we know that we're saturated at 70 degrees Celsius up here at about 135. I'm down here at 80 grams. So to figure out how many more grams I need to get from my unsaturated to my saturated solution, we're just going to subtract them. 135 minus 80 is going to give me my final answer. So we end up with 55 grams. Nope, sorry, 55 grams dissolving in. And the reason why is because we just need to get from this point up to that point. Now the last type of question is the ones that we have to set up a proportion. With the proportion, you're always going to have an amount that comes from the graph and then an amount that's in the question. And then you set them equal to one another. So on this one it says how many grams of ammonia, which is NH3, can I dissolve into 200 grams of water at a temperature of 45 degrees Celsius? So in the question it's saying that I have 200 grams of water. And then over here on the graph I have NH3. I'm at 45 degrees Celsius, so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to hit the graph right there. So we're at about 33 grams dissolving into 100 grams of water. So 33 grams of ammonia dissolve into 100 grams of water. We need to solve for X. So to solve for X, that's going to give me the number of grams of ammonia that I will need. So here, to solve this problem, we're going to cross multiply 33 times 200, and that's equal to 100 times X. We need to get X all by itself, so we're going to move the 100 to the other side. And then to get your answer, unfortunately I don't have a calculator in front of me. Before I made the video I didn't grab one. We're going to take 33 times 200 divided by 100, and that's going to tell me the answer right there. So you set up a proportion if you're not sure, where from the graph it's going to give you so many grams in 100 grams of water, and then from the question it says how many grams of ammonia in 200 grams of water. I'll go ahead and just set up the next one as well, but unfortunately, like I said, I don't have a calculator. I'll put the answers for these two, this number 9 and this number 10, in the comment section of the video. So on this one it says that we have potassium nitrate. We want to make a saturated solution at 50 degrees Celsius. With the saturated solution though, we want to use 287 grams of KNO3. We don't want to use whatever the graph says. So we need to figure out how many grams of water that's going to take, because it says how many grams of water. From the graph, 50 degrees Celsius, KNO3, we're going to cruise up here and we're at the graph right there. So we're at like 84 grams. So 84 grams of potassium nitrate comes from the graph, dissolved into 100 grams of water. So again, that's from the graph. This is from the question. Now we're just going to set up a proportion. 84 times X is equal to 100 times 287. To get your x all by itself, we're going to divide this side by 84, divide this side by 84. So you'll take 100 times 287 divided by 84, and that will give you your answer for x right there. And again, I'll give you the answer for this one and this one in the comment section of the video. I apologize that I don't have my calculator. So when you're looking at your solubility curves, big takeaway to remember is on the graph, it's always going to tell you how many grams of whatever solute the question is asking for is dissolved into 100 grams of water. That's always written on the side over there. These are all temperature based because as you usually increase the temperature, usually solubility goes up unless you have a gas, something like this line right here, ammonia, that decreases in your solubility at a higher temperature.